either actively or by default, with the horrific injuries and indignities inflicted on the most vulnerable people in a society. To believe that these policies are good and prudent and efficient, one must also believe that the people who suffer at the hands of the policies are deserving of the suffering, that they matter less than others, that their lives and dreams are not as worthy of fulfillment. This idea is not new, of course. Karl Marx wrote extensively about the dehumanization inherent in capitalism. Systemic dehumanization of low-wage workers or non-workers is crucial for continued exploitation to happen. When we think that those workers are perceived as fully human fully human with the value and rights and dignity of every other human, the workers and others around them will stand up against the exploitation. So even though these ideas aren't new, here we are in 2018, and many countries, including the United States, are being drenched by the torrential rain of policies and practices that are creating more and more vulnerable people. Therefore, we have to open the question again and explore empirically and philosophically what it means. So how do stories about social class, poor people, and hierarchical values of human life come to exist in our imaginations? I would argue that the crux of this answer is embedded somewhere in what I've called with my colleagues social class literacies. The idea that social class literacies are literacies that we all acquire that have particular ways of perceiving class embedded within them. In my work with Jay Teal, we draw on feminist scholars like Karen Barad, Rosie Braidotti, and Jane Bennett, among others, who are writing in this new ontological turn that we're in social theory. Some people are calling this feminist new materialisms, or new materialisms, or the material turn, or the ontological turn, or post-humanism. We draw from scholars who are writing across these fields. And this work has helped us to articulate an understanding of literacies in general, and our work around social class literacies. We use Karen Barad's concept of the material discursive apparatus to argue that the material and the discursive are always bound up together in the production of meaning. And those productions of meanings, we would say, are literacies. Those are literacies. Barad also tells us that stories are material discursive apparatuses of production, or an instrument of power through which particular meanings and bodies and material discursive boundaries are produced. Rather than fixed understandings, meanings emerge through our interactions, where they are mutually constituted through their relationships with each other, the material and the discursive, the physical and the language and ways of being and ideological. So as we and young children entangle ourselves with these material discursive apparatuses through play, work, and otherwise, we acquire literacies, ways of making sense of places, people, things, and events. Place, in this case. Place plays a key role in our interactions as the material discursive specificities of a place work to make certain literacies possible. Let me share a small example. Robert was 6 years old when he sat with me at a kitchen table inside a community center in his neighborhood. He was telling me a story about being in the car with his grandmother near the shopping mall. The shopping mall is a busy place with several lanes of traffic coming in and out, lots of parking lot spaces, and several intersections with stoplights around the perimeter. Robert told me that he saw a man standing on the side of the road with a cardboard sign that said he needed food. Tears just popped out of my eyes, Robert told me at that moment. And if by magic, tears popped out of his eyes again. I felt sorry for him, he said. Robert hated thinking that there were people who he called, quote, poor and didn't have food to eat or a place to stay at night. As a 6-year-old child, his bodily response to this perception was tears literally popping out of his eyes. At age 6, Robert had long been acquiring social class literacies. His interaction with the materiality of a specific place, the side of the road, at a busy shopping mall, lots of traffic, a man dressed for the outside elements, a cardboard sign alerting people in their car that he was in need of food. That materiality, combined with discourse. He was with his grandmother, whom I've known for quite a while now. And his grandmother, this discourse around class with his grandmother is one of deep empathy and spirituality. So combining this materiality that he's perceiving and the discourse of being with his grandmother, it produces a certain meaning in the moment. And for Robert, it was one of, I don't even want to say empathy, it's a visceral response. It's affect, it's in his body. What we come to know about race and class are literacies that we acquire through material discursive interactions in specific places, and that's going to be key. So Robert had come to know that the side of a busy road is a specific place where people in need of food or money or other kinds of basic